Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Vasily. I'm events manager at Save the Rhino. And firstly, we'll hear from Elena about the past and present of Save the Rhino. Then Raj will share his experience of running the London Marathon. And finally, James will talk us through the Coopah app functionality and how you can benefit from the app in terms of your training. And of course, there will be time for questions at the end. So now over to Elena.
Hi everyone. So I'm Eleanor, the intern at Save the Rhino this year. Thank you so much for coming along to the webinar, whether you're here with us this evening or watching the recording. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you all and supporting you on your London Marathon journeys. So I'll be giving you a bit of an intro to Save the Rhino. So I'll just share my screen now. I'll basically be telling you a bit of background information, sharing our story, our fundraising, and the impact of our fundraising. So a bit of a brief overview of the 5 rhino species. So there's 3 in Asia and 2 in Africa. So starting off with the Sumatran rhino, it's critically endangered with between 34 to 47 individuals left in the wild. They're found in Borneo and Sumatra in Indonesia, and they're the smallest rhino species, weighing between 500 and 960 kilograms. They're also the hairiest rhino species. Next, we have the Javan rhino. So they're also critically endangered with around 50 individuals left. They exist in a single population in Western Java, and securing more suitable habitats for this species is incredibly difficult, making the growth of the populations very challenging. Next, we have the black rhinos. So they're also critically endangered with 6,421 individuals left, and they're found throughout southern and eastern Africa, including Kenya, Namibia, and South Africa. They're the smaller of the 2 African species, weighing between 900 and 1,350 kilograms. They're most active at night, so this is where most of their drinking and foraging takes place. Next, we have the greater one-horned rhino. So they're vulnerable with 4,018 individuals left throughout India and Nepal, particularly in the foothills of the Himalayas. They're the second biggest species, weighing between 1,800 and 2,700 kilograms. Their skin forms thick folds which resemble armor plating, and they're semi-aquatic, so they can feed and dive underwater. And finally, the largest rhino species, the white rhino, weighing between 1,800 and 2,500 kilograms. They're one of the more prevalent species with 17,464 individuals left, making them near threatened. The southern white rhino is mainly found in South Africa, whilst the northern white rhino only has 2 individuals left, which are living at the Olpejita Conservancy in Kenya. So why do they need our help? So the most urgent threat to rhinos currently is poaching, driven by the demand for rhino horn in Asian countries, especially China and Vietnam. It's used as a status symbol and also in traditional Chinese medicine. And the other major threat is habitat loss. So there's a lack of suitable, secure and healthy habitat for rhinos. Rhinos need large habitats to thrive, and over many years, their habitats have been squeezed. So today, what we need to do is find the pockets of space which have the right food, water, and protection in place. So our story, so it was 30 years this year since Save the Rhino officially formed as a charity. In 1970, a rhino poaching epidemic began, which hugely impacted black rhino populations, and this continued into the 1990s. So our founders, Dave Sterling and Johnny Roberts, went on a rhino scramble across Africa, raising money and meeting conservationists along the way. They met Douglas Adams, a legendary author, and brought him on board as a founding patron, and officially established Save the Rhino International as an official charity in 1994. In the early 90s, a puppet designer and performer named William Todd Jones, who has worked on films such as Harry Potter and Labyrinth, came into contact with Save the Rhino after creating costumes for a show he was performing in. These rhino costumes were originally designed in 1989 by Gerald Scarfe for a production of Born Again, and the costumes were donated to Save the Rhino, and Todd was the first person to run the London Marathon in one of these iconic costumes. And these costumes are still a huge part of the charity to this day, and we have a herd of almost 20. So someone who knows these costumes really well is Chris Green, also known as Rhino Boy Chris, and he is one of our charity's ambassadors. So far, he's raised approximately 26,000 for Save the Rhino. He's run 168 marathons and ultras, 104 of those in costume, and he holds the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a mammal, completing the London Marathon in 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 35 seconds, as well as the fastest half marathon dressed as a mammal, completing the Great North Run in 1 hours, 50 minutes, and 5 seconds. And his next goal is to run 150 marathons in the rhino costume. So we really value the work that you, our fundraisers and supporters, do in supporting us here at Save the Rhino. So we have lots of different ways of fundraising as a charity. Firstly, we have challenge events such as the London Marathon and the Four Ranges Ultra, which is an ultra marathon through the Kenyan Safari. We also engage with community fundraising. For example, we've recently started going into schools for Rhino Dashes, where the children do a sponsored run or walk. We also sell merchandise alongside monthly and yearly memberships. We have several zoo and corporate partners who kindly donate to us. And finally, people who are really passionate about rhino conservation can leave money to us in their will. So where your fundraising goes. So your fundraising can support rangers. These are the men and women on duty in the field 24/7, protecting and monitoring rhinos in key locations. The money provides them with new equipment, uniforms, and training so that they can carry out their jobs safely and effectively. We also fund and expand canine units, bringing experts together in workshops to share expertise and best practice. And these specialist dog units are used to detect illegal wildlife products, tracking the routes of criminals and supporting communities living around the reserves. In order to reduce poaching, we also tackle its root cause, which is the demand for illegal rhino horn. So working with partners, we aim to disrupt criminal networks and stop the illegal trade, as well as support research to truly understand the reasons people are buying illegal rhino horn in the first place. And finally, we champion community conservation, bringing people that live alongside the rhinos into long-term plans so their future and the rhinos can benefit. So thank you so much for listening. And thank you again for running for us in the marathon. If you'd like more detailed information, please do visit our website. And if you'd like to ask me any questions or anything, please do contact me using this email address. And join the WhatsApp group if you haven't already by just scanning this QR code here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you very much for articulating so well the way we work and how fundraising is important for us. We also have Raj here, who ran the London Marathon in 2022, was it, Raj? Would you like to tell us a bit more about how it was for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's quite funny mentioning Chris's fastest time in that little presentation, Eleanor, because that was the same time, that was the same year that he beat his record, but that was also the year that I ran in costume as well. And the difference was just stark. I mean, he's out here smashing PBs of 4 hours, whereas I was coming in at a very painful 6 hours 21. And when I finished the marathon, I remember going up to Chris and actually, saying to him, "Oh, mate, how did you do?" And he said, "Yeah, I came in about 2 hours ago, and I've just been waiting ever since." And it was kind of a humbling moment from then on, like, okay, this is a challenge, but he's demonstrating how easy it can be. I'm just going to share my screen, share a few photos with everybody of the experience. So yeah, my name's Raj. I'm with Save the Rhino, and I'm the community fundraising officer at Save the Rhino. So I get to interact with a lot of lovely people, a few of which I believe are on this call at the moment. And I didn't always belong to Save the Rhino. I wasn't always part of the team, of course. And my first interaction with Save the Rhino actually was through these costumes, through the kind of legacy that Save the Rhino have built up over the years. In 2022, I was looking for the next kind of challenge, and I'd done a few half marathons up until then. Never quite tackled a marathon. So I don't really know what I was thinking going into my first marathon and chucking a rhino suit on top of that as well. But it was absolutely fantastic. In a nutshell, that's the thing I want you to come away from this from. But the rhino suit, it's a full-on challenge, and it obviously has about 30 years of history underneath each of those hoods. And the backstory of what led me to save the rhino was I am incredibly passionate about rhinos and conserving rhinos and endangered species. And these costumes, when you blend that with your personal fitness goals, they are such a fantastic way of raising awareness, and they get a lot of attention in the marathon, which was going to be one of my highlights for the race. It kind of transforms you into a bit of a celebrity for 6 hours and 21 minutes in my case. You're getting so much cheer and adoration from the crowd, especially at the London Marathon. You can talk to people who have done their 6-star world majors, or 7-star world majors, I should say now. And everybody says London has the best atmosphere. And that is pretty much on steroids or exemplified when you're in a rhino suit. I don't know if you can see, I'll just flick to another photo quickly. But this was before the race. So this was in the Save the Rhino gathering area, where all the suits are kind of suiting up, and there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of apprehension in the air. I kind of named my suit Big and Chunky, which for anyone who's watched Madagascar will know that is unacceptable, because Big and Chunky refers to obviously a hippo. And in this case, I had the wrong pachyderm in mind. But Big and Chunky was called out a lot throughout the duration of the London Marathon, and it definitely carried me through. Was very excited to take on this challenge, but the experience itself was one I'll never forget for several reasons. The first one being visibility. This was a little photo I snapped just before going through the start line. As you can see there, if the focus changes, I was quite near the back actually. I was in wave 16, which I believe is one of the last waves, which, I mean, as a runner, as an active runner, the suit is light and it might not slow you down that much. And as a runner, I was actually able to overtake quite a few people in the early waves. But not many London marathoners in their training programs prepare for a giant rhino with a horn on the end of it coming up the back of them. So I had to be extra careful when I was overtaking people. And it was quite comical, just some of the shouts and the kind of looks you get as you're going through the London Marathon. If we go back over to mid-race, this is just after Tower Bridge. And one of the pieces of advice, sorry, I would give to anyone who's running in a suit is don't set off too quickly, because like I just said, they are lighter than you might think, and you are actually able to get some speed. But I came out of the gate and I was way too fast for my own good, which is a classic when you come into a marathon, because the energy and the kind of the crowd, the roaring crowd's so magnificent that you just want to set off and set a PB. So with that in mind, I really needed to just take it back and trust in the process, trust in the training that I'd done leading up to it. And because I didn't, and because my body wasn't really used to wearing the suits, I cramped up pretty bad. The cramps around mile 19 of the London Marathon got to me a little bit. And if you'd taken a sideways look, you would have seen a rhino on the side of the road trying to stretch out his quadricep as best he could. But thankfully, I was handed a Lucozade energy gel by none other than Anthony Joshua. So I'm sure that was a very unique experience for him, reaching inside a rhino with a little Lucozade gel. And I kind of couldn't believe it. I thought I was hallucinating, to be honest, looking out through my little peephole and then seeing AJ handing me what was at the time kind of a saving grace. But that's just like a lesson for have your nutrition in order, but also just train. And just coming back to nutrition, I wore a little belt for the London Marathon, just around my chest, which I could fit, some salt tablets in, some isotonic drink tablets as well, which I'd slip into some water with me. And because of the suit and because of the limitations on reachability, it's really handy to have, something on you, like maybe a camel pack or a water vest that you can kind of just be self-sufficient for. I know a few people who actually scrunch up the arms of the suit and store their kind of water and energy gels in there. So you've basically got two giant pockets if you want them. The other tip I'd kind of give to anybody who's thinking of running in a suit is just prepare yourself for a change in your running gait. For me, I'm a heel striker. Well, I'm trying not to be. It's kind of the classic 95% of all runners are heel strikers. But with the suit, you really don't want a lot of weight coming down on your heels, considering you're going to be carrying an extra 10 kg. So doing as much training beforehand to try and change your running gait could be a really helpful exercise leading up to it. And also, you might not be able to swing your arms that much. So you're going to be stabilizing the head in front of you a little bit, which presents a whole new host of feelings and challenges. You might cramp up in your arms a little bit if you're not watching your salt tab, so just watch out for that. But I understand that as I'm talking about this, it sounds like, why would anyone ever do this? You've got cramps where you don't expect them and you can't see anything and your internal temperature is going up. But I trust me, I tell you that it's one of the greatest experiences you'll ever go through. I actually did the 2023 marathon the next year without the suit, and it wasn't at all a close comparison. I didn't get the same feeling after the marathon that I did when I crossed the finish line in that suit. You feel like you've overcome this huge mountain, and you've done it for such a great cause as well. I said this before, but I like to think that the London Marathon and bigger challenges like that, you really need something in your list, your bag to reach down and grab when times get tough. And this is one of them, running in the costume, supporting Save the Rhino, contributing all of your amazing fundraising to Save the Rhino and rhino conservation. That's just another reason for you to kind of dig deep and push on through the next 25, 24 miles that you have in front of you. And it was an unforgettable experience, and clearly it worked out quite well because here I am with Save the Rhino now. It's all worked out fantastically, and that was on the back of this amazing positive experience that I had. Just to quickly recap some of those points, I would say if you're in a suit, and I'm not sure, Evan, I saw you join the call. I'm not sure, Evan, if you're taking on the suit in the London Marathon this year, but don't set off too quickly. Trust in the process, put a training program in place, maybe with the help of Coopah, to help you get over that finish line. Take it all in because it really is a fantastic experience. You might be in pain, you might be cramping up, but it's only going to be a day out of your life, and not even 6 hours out of your life, perhaps, depending on, if you're thinking of crushing that record. And yeah, just think about what you're doing this for, what you're putting step after step in for, what you're running miles for, and what you're raising money for eventually. But that was my experience in the suit. This was me at the end of the London Marathon, very happy to have finished, but very proud as well. A really tremendous feeling of pride coming out of that. So I'm wishing you guys all the best for the London Marathon, and here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Raj. Great job. We have another avid runner in the room. James, will you tell us a bit about yourself and and Coopah, the app.
Thanks, Vasily. Thank you. Great listening to Raj and his experience of running, and we'll touch upon some of the key focus points that he's nicely teed up. And great. I found it fascinating listening to Eleanor about obviously the history of Save the Rhino. For those that don't know me, my name's James Thee. I'm the head coach at Coopah. Coopah is obviously the official training app of the TCS London Marathon. A little bit of background about myself. I've been a runner for 36 years. I coach a whole load of athletes, from those that are just starting out their running journeys. And I've been very fortunate. I've been part of the last 2 Olympic teams as well. So I've been privileged to see every end of the spectrum. But it still gives me great privilege to help those people that are just starting out or just needing a little bit of extra help and support. The marathon, I know it well. I ran the TCS New York Marathon just 10 days ago. And I mean, marathon majors, so London, New York, the others on that bucket list, they are bucket list races. As Raj says, the noise of these city races, but the marathon itself is something very, very special. Those that have completed it know the journey you go on that starts kind of about now, with that build up, with that prep, with the worry, the stress that we're going to take some of that away from you at Coopah. But the marathon itself, I've done a few marathons, and that's my first major city marathon, but I've coached so many runners, but it gives me real strength now in what I tell runners to do and think about. But having gone through it, it's fresh in my mind. So I can't wait for you to go through that journey, and I can't wait for you to complete the marathon come April. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen, and I can hopefully find my PowerPoint. Let's see if I can find it. This is where you see that I'm not super savvy on tech. I'm sharing, but it's not sharing. Why is it not sharing? Right there. I'm pressing share, but it's not sharing. Let's see if that is there. Right, let me see if that shares now. Right, can you see the PowerPoint on the screen? Is that working?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so Coopah, who are we? Okay, so Pete Coopah is a very special person to us as the brand, because between him and Dan, they set Coopah on its way. But it was created through Pete's kind of life, where his mum was an avid runner. She ran in the marathon majors, and she passed away, and Pete found this really difficult. As in we all have, that's lost, loved ones close to us. And he was, really struggling with depression, and running was the thing that saved him. Running was the thing that brought him kind of back from, that really tough time, but also the connection, obviously, with his mum being a runner, with her being a marathon runner. But when Pete kind of started out running, what one of his frustrations were that training programs and plans tended to be PDFs. They tended to be fixed. They tended to not have much interaction. So Pete set about this kind of philosophy of making sure that it was accessible to lots of people through an app, but there was a flexibility, there was an interaction, there was a personal touch to this creation of a training plan. And so in 2021, this is where Coopah was born, and the creation of this digital run coach. And it's taken a number of years, number of people to feed into the technology, to the design, to the interaction with runners. But it allows runners to build a training program around the time they have, around their ability, around their aim on race day. And then myself and other coaches have then created the training plans that then you will see when you become part of our Coopah team. And it really is designed for everyone. But the key individual parts of it is that it is flexible to you. But also there's always an ability to be interactive with coaches, ask questions. And basically, as I said, we don't just give you a plan and then we'll see you on the start line in April. It is a journey from the very first few days, weeks into that April start line, and then your April finish line as well. So this 24/7 chat with a real life coach, it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's your ability to ask questions. And to us, there's no questions. Even the most experienced of runners will have questions regarding the training sessions, regarding recovery, regarding the other little nuances that Raj was going through, that we all have those as runners, and we need sometimes just to voice them to someone. That's what the real life chat does. You can choose the days that work for you. Different people, it's not your long run must be on a Sunday. That's the old traditional kind of methodology that in our day-to-day lives, whether it's families, work, just your ability to find time in any given day. That's why choosing the days that you can train, it flexes the plan around that. And then, like, some people will have is, they have obviously the main race, which is obviously the TCS London Marathon. They're going to have other races, maybe 10Ks. It might be having a half marathon sometime in March time as you build in to the marathon distance. So we allow you to put those into the training plan, and the training plan again is flexible around that. So one thing we're super proud of, I think that we all know, the best and biggest race, and I will say that with experience of New York just a few weeks ago, the TCS London Marathon is a quality assurance of everything to do with running. So for us to be the official training app, obviously, Pete, Dan, myself, and the team, we are thrilled that we are the official training app. But with that comes obviously a great responsibility, and therefore, the quality of our programs, quality of our plans, everything is always. And if you're on the groups of organization that we have through the app, you can just see the level of detail day in, day out that's going in through a whole team of people to make sure that we stay at the very, very forefront of this digital training age. So how do you guys get set up? I'm sure Eleanor and the team are pointing you in the direction, so you've got the ability then to sign up. This is the QR code. Obviously, I'm sure that they're signposting and send you the information as well. But this is your unique code. So this is when you've got time to sit down, download us on obviously Google Play or the App Store, and then obviously sit down, put the information in about yourself, and then it creates the plan, and then that's it. Not literally sit back and let us do the rest. We'll create the plan, and then you've obviously got to do the hard work and the running. Having done the marathon myself a few weeks ago, I know the training that needs to go in, and I know that you're going to need yourselves, that training to go in, because the marathon will test you, and but us, the training app, we provide the structure and take away the worry that we will get you to that start line ready to complete the marathon distance. So we often break down, myself as a coach, I'm famed for doing this, where we don't just say, right, okay, this is one big block into April. We need to break it down into manageable sections. This is a nice period right now. You don't need to panic. You don't need to put in mass amount of training suddenly and think, okay, if I do more this week, I'm going to be better. We go in incremental amounts, and even if we start off very, very gradual, I think as the slide shows, it's around about 24 weeks. We have time on our side, but as we all know, time absolutely flies by right now. So you have time, and then time does disappear slightly. So build up slightly. It's about listening to your body. It's about obviously those that are runners out there that have done lots of running. You've got an idea of the parameters and the amount you can push yourself. But again, for us, it's about consistency. It's about getting into a routine. Sometimes, and we look to aim for 3 times a week. Some run more, but around 3 times we find is the optimal. But ideally, you're getting comfortable in the next month or so into running for around about 1 hour, and running around about in that time, around about 10 kilometers. But we also do promote run walk as well. Getting around the distance, isn't just about just running continuously. For some of you, it will be. For others, it's not. And going back to the goals, for some of you will have time goals in mind. You've run a marathon before, or you've run a half marathon. For others, you just want to get it done. So January is going to come around pretty quick. This is where the fun really starts. We've already made our New Year's resolutions a long time before other people have. But this next month is about continuing to build your hard work, that you've obviously built a bit of a base over, this first little block. And now we can introduce some harder workouts. We like to challenge you a little bit. It's a bit about variety. It's mixing it up. The body loves a change in different types of training. And again, it's maybe starting to think about, as Raj says, the gels you take on board, the fueling during long runs. And therefore, it's starting to practice that and what we call time on feet in January. February, mileage it continues to increase. Long run continues to build. Again, we're building on your time goals, your experience. again, we'd like you in this period to get comfortable with the half marathon distance, or if you're usually comfortable with the half marathon distance, maybe extend the pace, and maybe start running towards maybe goal pace for that marathon. Practicing refueling again. You can start now to think about, your practice on routine on race day, about what you're going to eat, the time you're going to run, and whether you, the herd of 20, I love that what Eleanor said in terms of wearing, obviously, the costume to run in. But again, you might, obviously, as Raj said, again, the importance of training in the outfit to make sure that you're used, obviously, talked about maybe changing running cadence, in running technique, but also where and how you're going to store your gels and your hydration. March time, business end of the training plan. You might call this your peak training weeks. This is where you run your longest, your furthest. This is where your mileage will be your highest. Your intensity of these also increase. So everything before that's prepping us for hopefully a fantastic March. Sometimes people enter half marathons in this time. Again, we'd love you to see how much progress you've made, but it's not essential. You don't have to race if you don't have to. And again, trying out race day kits, as we said. And don't worry how you might look. You stay in your zone, stay focused. During the Cardiff Half Marathon press conference, there was a woman, Zoe, that was going to break or try and break the half marathon record for being dressed as a Disney character. So she went out for her long runs in a big gold ballroom gown of Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And she said, look, I had to do it. But she said the amount of cheers, the amount of encouragement she got. So you guys, Sunday run or whenever your long run is, in your Rhino suits, those that are suited up for it, then you're going to get some cheers. But if you're just running generally, just in your normal running attire, wear the types of kit you're going to be wearing. And also think about shoes as well, the types of shoes you're going to be wearing on race day, just so nothing is left to chance on race day. So here we go. It's race month. This is the period when people start to get a little bit itchy. People think, my God, I've missed out. I haven't done X, I haven't done Y. Trust in the work you've done. Between now and that time in April, you will miss a couple of runs. That happens. You will obviously then, have to think more about what you did do than you didn't do. The taper is coming off the amount of runs that you do then. And your volume decreases. Intensity can stay pretty much the same, but we're getting you ready for race day. In my taper, my Achilles was hurting, my calf was hurting, my quads were hurting, everything was hurting. But often it's phantom pains, and because you're suddenly doing less to what you were doing more. And again, I had to remind myself to trust the training. And come race day, you get all of the boost, all of the kickoff on that great work you've done. Don't forget, training works in overloading the system. Ultimately, it works through rest and recovery for that adaptation. No one trains to get worse. No one trains not to be fitter on race day, but you have to trust yourself in that last 2 weeks, that you don't suddenly think you've got to go out the week before to do a half marathon and tell yourself you can do it. Let that work come out, and you will get to race day. And as long as you get to race day on that start line, healthy and happy, you will get that 26.2 miles done. That 42 kilometers will go so much better than if you panic. So, important reminders. Social media is fantastic for promoting what you're doing, but do not worry about what everyone else is doing. Our approach is tried and tested, but again, have focus, trust the process. I think Raj said that, trust the process. Don't stress this magical 20 miles that people talk about you have to do in training. You don't have to do it. It's about time on feet. Again, the crowd are worth a few miles. The taper's worth a few miles. And the fact you're running for a fantastic charity are worth a few miles. That magical 20 miles, as long as you've got a good distance of time on feet, what the plan says, you're going to be great. But again, celebrate every achievement, whether that's your first 5K run, 10K run, your first hour of running, whether that's your first few races that you do that's under your belt, whether that's your first run streak, week, month of running. Every small win is a celebration. And even the amounts of money you're raising for charity, they're celebrating those because, the TCS and the marathon, the millions of pounds that have been raised over the years are the reason why the event's just so celebrated. But also remind yourselves, running a marathon is not easy. Running a marathon will test you. It will try you. You'll find out something you maybe didn't know about yourself. But only 1% of the population, or less than 1% of the population, have ever run a marathon. So You're finding the unknown that many people don't get to do, and you're going to join a pretty elite club. And obviously, to complete London Marathon, what is it? 250,000 people every year try and get involved in the London Marathon. You are on that start line. So I think that's the important parts of today. I don't think there's any more slides. So let me go back to the main screen. So it's probably a good chance, because you may have already signed up to the app. You might already have some training questions, or some things that you need a bit of advice on. If there's time, I'd love to answer a few questions now, if there's anything pressing about your preparation. Only thing I didn't add was that we offer support and advice on things like hydration, on strength and conditioning, as well as your refueling on race day and in training as well. So our team will feed into that within your information and the app as well. But as I said, we are delighted you're on board, and I'm super excited you'll be doing our Coopah Run plans.
Thank you so much, James. Yes, let's open up for questions. If you have one, just unmute yourself and ask it.
I've got the chat function open as well, so if anyone is feeling shy and they want to type away in the chat box, I'm happy to ask it as a question. And you won't be the only person with that question, I bet. And if there's no questions, then I answered everything in the presentation. So.
I do have a question, to be fair. I'm curious.
Go on, throw it at me. Go on, do it.
Yeah, it sounds so amazing, and something I wish I definitely had for the marathons that I took part in. But you mentioned that you have kind of a team on hand to answer questions when users are kind of going through their app. What's the kind of level of support? Is it kind of like an AI? Is it a member of staff that's kind of on hand to ask questions, those kind of things?
Absolutely not AI. So that would be cheating. That would be you just get generic answers back. So it is our designated coaching team that I'm on as well, and I feed into them. But yeah, they are real life people that are going to answer your real life problems and questions. So yeah, so I think AI is a bit like Googling something, isn't it? You'll get a generic bit of information. Some of it's right, some of it's not. But yeah, this is something that we really pride ourselves that you will be contacted back and answered by a real live person. They exist.
That's fantastic.
What are your favorite questions, James?
What's my favorite questions? I think one of them is like the importance of hydration and refueling. And yeah, Raj will back me up, and those that have run marathons again. When you run a marathon, you've got to think about yourself like even an electric car or a fuel car, where what you can never do is run the battery or your fuel tank to zero, because the marathon, you're needing fuel the whole time. And it's making sure that you do that in training as well. So it's probably looking at 30-minute windows of exercise where you're refueling yourself. And there's lots of ways of doing it. Obviously, gels and drinks. But yeah, if you've got a sweet tooth, whether it's jelly babies or jelly beans, whether it's as Raj says, whether it's your Lucasades of this world that they do give out, obviously on the London Marathon course. It's finding something that also settles with your stomach. And that's the same with like routines of what you have for breakfast, what you have pre-running. I'm a creature of habit myself, so for breakfast, race day, for me it's always a bagel. I do love my coffee, but that's because I drink coffee every day. Race day is not the day to suddenly decide that because you read Paula Radcliffe had porridge on the day of her 2:15 marathon, you're suddenly going to have porridge. And you read somewhere that a double espresso is the way forward. And if you've never done either of those two things, you can imagine the worst case scenario. So I would always go with a routine, practice it on training day, so that race day, these are things. And also I would have thought a lot of your team will be traveling and staying in hotels. So take a breakfast with you, because sometimes you get breakfast and it might only be a quick breakfast. It might be an early start and that you don't even make breakfast. So I would always take with me fuel, because that was one thing I could always control. Even when I was a runner back in the day and running shorter distances, breakfast for me or pre-race meals was so important that take them in your suitcase, in your bag, even if that's your Weetabix that you normally have, and you can go and buy some milk around the corner and eat it out of a cup that's been done before. Again, they're the really simple things that sometimes we forget. We think about all the big things, and then something as simple as fueling yourself, because that moment you run out of fuel, and same with hydration, rehydrating yourself, so important. If those in the herd, if you don't rehydrate, then performance when I say performance, everyone's a performance athlete, because you want your performance to be as high as possible. The moment you're dehydrated, everything drops off, and then you can get muscle cramps, you can be disorientated, and then the marathon's hard for anyone fueling the whole way. Don't make it harder for yourself.
Great. Thank you. Any questions in the room?
And my other one is just absolutely enjoy it. I mean, it is, an amazing experience. London, for everyone I've ever helped, and I look after the elite athletes at London, so I get to see the start and then the finish, and those two areas are just buzzing. But the real magic happens in the middle, places like Cutty Sark, when you're going through some of the boroughs, that it's festival like, because people are so proud of where they live, that they literally will come out. Some people ask about, running with music, and actually certain places, I know my wife won't run without running with music. And so if you train with music, great, obviously keep it safe. Some of those headphones that you have, the bone conductor ones, are great race day, because you can hear everything around you, but obviously some tunes, some people need that music. They want that beat. They want that distraction as well. But again, there'll be places on the course where you cannot hear any music. You will just hear people cheering you. But again, if it gets tough out there in any of your training months, just think why you're doing it. Obviously, you're doing it for such a worthwhile cause. The experience of the marathon and completing it will be so worthwhile. And therefore, but also everyone has dips in motivation, in confidence, in just in general, with other things that are going on in life. So just back yourself, and remember, everyone does go through those little dips. It's not, I love to say it's going to be a linear line where every bit of training goes great, you feel absolutely great, and you get the start line great. For every single runner from every level of ever coach, it doesn't happen that way. But as I said, if you give yourself a chance to get on race day, and the only other thing I will say is that if anyone has an issue or a problem, there is a TCS London Marathon in 2026. Don't drag yourself round if there's an issue or an injury, because you can defer your place, speak to the team. I'm sure they'd love to have you next year, because it's about looking after your health as well. And obviously, you want the best experience as well. And the team want you to get the best experience. Us at Coopah, we want you to have the best experience. But I think when you do cross that line, every marathon I've done, I've cried. So prepare yourself for an emotional day. That's the only thing I do say to people. Prepare yourself mentally for the emotions on the start line. Prepare yourself for the emotions during the race. And you don't have to prepare yourself for the emotions of after. Let those come out. But I think one thing that you don't really realize until you've run a marathon, it's much more emotional than you think it's ever going to be. But therefore, that's why it's so worthwhile. So I wish you all the very best, guys.
Great. Thank you, James. I'm curious, Raj, I have a question for you as a London Marathon runner. What feature of the Coopah app sounded most appealing to you? Like,
Yeah, no, it's what I've been asking myself as well. I think there are so many. It's actually hard to pick one. But actually, I've always wanted to have a training coach for running, because you kind of train yourself. Running's one of those self-starting sports that if you get a pair of shoes, you can just go out and get the miles done. But it is a technical sport. There's so much research and there's so much history behind it, that having someone who knows what they're doing, and has studied it, is so beneficial. I mean, you talk about efficiency. You might be running and you might be getting the miles in, but you could be doing it better maybe, or you could be doing it, at a more economic return on your energy levels, or your breathing might be right. All these little tips and tricks, like the tiny, what's the expression where it's like the little things, a layer of paint a day adds up to a mountain eventually in terms of your training. And I think that's what I really love about Coopah, is either in person or via the chat function, or just having like daily goals. Accountability will be huge, and it's coming from the professionals themselves. So I think if it was me, I'd really benefit from asking and having somebody there to answer my questions. As James was saying, you do run into a host of different things during your training program, and that's the best time to run into them, because you can actually kind of like needle out those issues, those little wiggles you might have with your feet or your breathing, and just having somebody alongside you while you're going through it to answer those questions, to kind of clarify some of that information, really would be invaluable. So you never know, James, I might be completely firing your team up with some questions and giving them a bit of an earworm until
We're ready
bored
for you. We're ready for you. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, guys. If there are no more questions, are there any more questions in the room via the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask? Maybe Elena, maybe you could just mention how to sign up for the app.
Yeah, so thank you, James, for your talk. It sounds like a really brilliant app. Like whether you've run a marathon before or you're a new runner, it sounds like it will be really beneficial to all the team. So if anyone hasn't signed up who's listening, if you just drop me an email and say you'd like to sign up for Coopah, and I'll send you your exclusive access code and the link to the sign up. And it's as simple as that. And then you can start using the training app. So yeah, do just get in touch with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, James. And thank you, everyone who is listening and watching. Good luck with your training and good luck with your fundraising. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thanks for having me. Okay. Take care and best of luck.
Cheers, everyone.